The dollar isn't dying because it's weak. It's becoming a weapon. And China just realized it's trapped inside a financial prison designed by its enemy. Right now, the world's second largest economy cannot buy oil,
soldiers march
cannot
to
move
an
money,
inevitable fate.
and cannot defend itself without using a currency controlled by Washington. This isn't a rivalry. This is a trap closing in real time. And the last time a rising power faced this exact problem, the world burned for 6 years. Here's why the system just broke, and why there's no going back. 88% of global trade settles in US dollars, even when America isn't involved. China, the world's largest trading nation, settles less than 4% of payments in its own currency. That's not inefficiency. That's a kill switch. Right now, 70% of China's oil flows through US-controlled sea lanes. $3 trillion of Chinese reserves sit in assets Washington can freeze overnight. Every transaction, every contract, every payment, all visible to US intelligence. The last time a major power faced this imbalance was Germany in 1914. An industrial giant forced to finance everything in a rival's currency. It didn't end with reform. It ended with World War. China isn't pushing the yuan because it wants to. It's pushing because the alternative is submission, or strangulation. But geography has already decided how this ends. Here's what the headlines say. China accelerates yuan internationalization as dollar hegemony faces challenges. Here's the actual story. The financial architecture of global power is cracking, and China just discovered it cannot survive inside a system weaponized against it. This isn't about currency competition. This is about sanctions, asset freezes, and financial blockades, the same tools that destroyed Russia's economy in 72 hours. Watch what happened. Russia gets cut from SWIFT. $300 billion in reserves frozen. Iran tries to sell oil, locked out of dollar payments. Venezuela attempts trade, financial system refuses to clear. China watched this and realized, we're next. Because the system that made China rich is the same system that can make China poor, overnight. And unlike Russia, China can't survive on oil sales alone. Unlike Iran, China can't function in isolation. Unlike Venezuela, China has $18 trillion in trade exposure. So Beijing isn't building an alternative currency system because it's confident. It's building one because the trap is already closing. The US didn't accidentally create this leverage. This was designed in 1944 at Bretton Woods, upgraded in 1971 when Nixon killed the gold standard, and weaponized after 9/11 with the Patriot Act. For 30 years, China played inside this system. Cheap exports. Dollar recycling. Treasury purchases. But that deal assumed cooperation. Not containment. Not Cold War 2.0. And now the math has changed. To understand why China can't escape, and why this ends badly, we need to look at 3 forces no central bank can print away. Pull up a map of China's energy imports. East, open ocean, controlled by US Navy and allies. South, Malacca Strait. 80% of China's oil passes through here. One choke point. Surrounded by US bases. West, mountains and deserts. No ports. Infrastructure nightmare. North, Russia. Unreliable. Limited capacity. This is why empires fall. Britain used this exact strategy against Napoleon. America used it against Japan before Pearl Harbor. Control the sea lanes. Control the currency. Let geography do the killing. China's Belt and Road Initiative tried to solve this, pipelines through Central Asia, rail to Europe. But here's the problem. Overland routes cost 4 times more than ships. You can't run a $6 trillion export economy on trains through Kazakhstan. And it gets worse. Every barrel of oil China imports is priced in dollars. Every ship is insured by London or New York. Every payment is cleared through SWIFT, a Belgian company that takes orders from Washington. China cannot fight a financial war from a position of maritime dependence. The US doesn't need to invade. It just needs to wait at the choke point. And Beijing knows it. Now look at China's population clock. 1990, massive young workforce. Economic miracle begins. 2022, working age population peaks and starts shrinking. 2035, over 400 million Chinese citizens will be over 60. This kills reserve currencies. Because reserve currencies require three things. 1. Deep capital markets. But aging societies save, not invest. 2. Political stability. But aging societies protect what they have. 3. Long-term trust. But trust requires openness, not control. China fails all three. The US dollar works because America lets capital flow freely. Money comes in during crises. Money leaves during booms. That liquidity is what makes the dollar trusted. China can't do this. Open capital flows equals rich Chinese moving money to London, New York, Singapore. That drains reserves. Crashes the yuan. Destabilizes the regime. So Beijing keeps capital controls. But capital controls kill internationalization. Japan hit this wall in the 1990s. Chose stagnation over confrontation. China can't choose stagnation. Its political system promises growth, not stability. This creates a doom loop. Fewer workers leads to slower growth, leads to tighter controls, leads to less trust, leads to weaker currency. And China is running out of time. By 2030, the demographic window closes. After that, Beijing doesn't have leverage, it has survival mode. Here's what history teaches. Reserve currencies don't lose power gracefully. They fracture under violence. Dutch guilder to British pound, wars bankrupted Amsterdam. Britain emerged victorious. British pound to US dollar, 2 world wars drained British finances. America stayed intact. US dollar to ? For the dollar to fall, something catastrophic must break the system. And that's the trap. China doesn't want to replace the dollar through competition. It wants to survive in a world where the dollar is a weapon. But survival requires building parallel systems. SIPs, alternative to SWIFT. Digital yuan, bypass Western banks. Commodity contracts in yuan, oil, gas, metals. Belt and road, physical infrastructure. All of this costs trillions. All of it is fragile. None of it works without military power to enforce it. And that brings us back to geography. China is building an alternative financial system while dependent on sea lanes it doesn't control, using energy priced in a currency it doesn't issue. Cleared through systems it doesn't run. That's not a strategy. That's a countdown to confrontation. History says when rising powers face this trap, they don't negotiate their way out. They fight their way out. And the clock is already ticking. So here's where the system breaks. I'm giving you 3 scenarios with probability estimates. Watch for the triggers, they tell you which path we're on. Scenario 1, the fracture. 65% probability. What happens? The world splits into currency blocks. The dollar remains dominant in North America, Europe, and allied Asia, Japan, South Korea, Australia. The yuan expands in Central Asia, parts of Africa, sanctioned economies, Russia, Iran, Venezuela. Global trade becomes more expensive. Less efficient, more political. Timeline. 2025, China and Russia announce full trade settlement in yuan and rubles. 2026, Saudi Arabia accepts yuan for oil, limited volumes. 2027 to 2028, regional payment systems process 15 to 20% of non-Western trade. By 2030, 2 parallel financial systems operating globally. Winners, United States, relative power increases. Resource exporters, sell to both blocs. Financial hubs, Singapore and Dubai, sit in the middle. Losers, export-dependent manufacturers. Countries forced to choose sides. Global efficiency, costs rise 10 to 15%. Watch for these triggers, more bilateral currency swaps announced. Energy contracts priced in mixed currencies. Western sanctions accelerate, banking, tech, energy. Scenario 2, managed transition. 15% probability. What happens? China gradually liberalizes capital controls. Washington accepts yuan as a limited reserve currency. Like the euro. Both sides de-escalate. Why it's unlikely, requires Beijing to risk capital flight. Requires Washington to share financial dominance. Both politically impossible right now. This only happens if Taiwan tension decreases dramatically. US-China trade stabilizes. Demographics force Beijing to prioritize stability over growth. Timeline would take 10 to 15 years minimum. Scenario 3, the break. 20% probability. What happens? A crisis forces abrupt decoupling. Trigger events. Taiwan invasion leads to US freezing Chinese assets. Major sanctions escalation leads to China retaliating with commodity cutoffs. Debt crisis in China leads to capital controls hardening. Trade collapsing. Result, immediate asset freezes. Trade routes militarized. Currencies weaponized fully. Global recession, possibly depression. Last time this happened, 1914. International financial system collapsed. Didn't recover for a generation. Timeline, could happen anytime between 2025 and 2030 if Taiwan tension spikes. My bet, Scenario 1, the fracture. Here's how you'll know I'm right. By end of 2025, BRICS currency discussions advance. Even if not implemented, China-Russia trade in yuan exceeds $100 billion per year. Saudi Arabia accepts yuan for at least 10% of Chinese oil purchases. By end of 2027, non-dollar trade settlements reach 25% globally. Regional payment systems clear $1 trillion plus annually. Dollar share of reserves drops below 55%, from 58% today. When all six appear, the fracture is irreversible. Here's the bottom line. China isn't trying to dethrone the dollar. It's trying to escape a financial prison. But geography says it can't do it.
The Malacca
finally.
Strait is a vital global shipping lane. Its narrow choke point creates dangerous congestion. This bottleneck poses a high geopolitical risk.
Like this don't end peacefully. The dollar isn't collapsing. The system built around it is fracturing. For you, this means higher costs for everything. Markets split along political lines. Money follows power, not efficiency. So here's my question, which breaks first, the dollar's dominance? Or the world trying to escape it? Drop your prediction and timeline in the comments. Next video, I'm breaking down the one region that wins when this system fractures. It's not China. It's not America. It's not Europe. Subscribe so you don't miss it.